Students, we'll start with our chapter 3, that is the network infrastructure for e-commerce. So network infrastructure for e-commerce have topics like www, that is World Wide Web, components of iWay, information super high, market forces influencing iWay, and network access equipment are the topics which are covered under network infrastructure for e-commerce and www. So the very first we'll go with www, and then the browsers, then the models which are there. So www was invented by Tim Berners-Lee, a scientist at CERN. That is CERN is European Organization for Nuclear Research, and was invented in World Wide Web in 1989. So World Wide Web was invented by Tim Berners-Lee, a scientist of European Organization for Nuclear Research in 1989. Now, the web was originally conceived and developed to meet the demand for automatic information sharing between scientists working in different universities and institutes all over the world. So www nowadays also we use it, and we use it for the sharing of information or searching of information. Then it should meet the demands of information conveyance of the user, that is the main task. The basic idea of www was to merge the technologies of personal computers, computer networking, and hypertext into a powerful and easy to use global information system. So now one information can be globally used by everyone, and that is what is the task of the www, and it was established by that particular concern only, that technologies of computer with the hand in hand of computer network and hypertext, that is the information, all tied together can be termed as www. So www stands for World Wide Web. Next is the Mosaic, that is the original browser. By 1992, the internet had become most popular network linking researchers and educators at the post secondary level throughout the world. So 1992 was the development age or the developing year in which the internet started becoming a hike. People started preferring network linking rather than only personal computers. Researchers at the European Laboratory for Particle Physics, known as its French acronym CERN, had developed and implemented the World Wide Web, a network based hypertext system that let users embed internet addresses their document. Yes, they can search there or they can link their documents with the help of internet on the network based hypertext. Network based means with the help of a network connection they get connected to a internet service, and through which they can access the information, that is called as the internet embed internet addresses. The next is HTML, HTTP client server model. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, is the main markup language for creating web pages. So for creating this browser web pages, the language which is there, the main language which was developed was HTML, that is Hypertext Markup Language, and other information that can be displayed in the web browser. So HTML helps you to create web pages and display those web pages on the web browser. Next is HTTP. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, is a set of rules for transferring files. Now when you talk about HTTP, even if today you go on the browser and you search for something, you type HTTP slash whatever you want. So HTTP gives you an transfer protocol which allows you to access the hypertext or text which is there, and for in that text, the text which is included is normal text, your graphic, images, sound, video, and other multimedia files. So as soon as web users open their web browser, now whenever you open your web browser, that is nowadays you have Chrome, you have Internet Explorer, you have UC browser, all the browsers which are there, what do you do? The user indirectly making use of HTTP. You make an indirect use of HTTP, which is being there. HTTP is an application protocol. Now application protocol, to access any application, the acronym which we need is HTTP, that runs on the top of TCP/IP suite of protocols. So TCP/IP is for transmission control protocol, for transmitting the information, but for transfer and communication with the web browser you require HTTP. Next is HTTP also has the communication protocol to connect to web servers on the internet or local network, that is intranet. You can connect with internet as well as intranet through HTTP. Client server model. The client server model is an approach to computer network programming developed at Xerox PARC during the 1970s. So client server model was developed in the year 1970s. It is now prevalent in computer networks. Nowadays it is used in computer networks as an type of model which people try to follow. Email, the World Wide Web, network printing, all apply client server model. Now email client server model means you have an user as a client, you have an server which is going to respond to the client request, that is called as client server model. Now network infrastructure is required for e-commerce to transport content. Here network infrastructure is required, or proper network architecture is required for passing on the information or to transport the information content. And for that, I-Way is a high capacity, I-Way is a high capacity interactive electronic pipeline used to transfer content in the case of e-commerce. So I-Way is one type of, you can say, facility which is high capacity, interactive means two ways, electronic pipeline used to transfer the content in case of e-commerce. So in case of e-commerce, I-Way is going to work as a pipeline for sharing of information. I-Way can transfer any type of context. Now they can transfer any type of context, that is like text, graphics, audio or video. In other words, multimedia contents are easily transported through I-Way. So I-Way can easily transport the multimedia information. So the next is components of I-Way. So when we talk about components of I-Way, there are three, that is consumer access equipments, local or access roads or on maps, global information distribution network. So the first one is consumer access equipments are devices used to access multimedia. Now people use different devices to interact for the e-commerce content. So they can be smartphones, they can be different softwares, they can be different hardwares, and in this vendors who supply this are also included. Next is local or access road or on ramps. So this segment of I-Way simplifies linkage between businesses, universities and homes as the communication backbone. For the communication backbone, what do we have? There are different zones in which your information is provided, in which you have businesses, then you have universities, then you have homes for intranet. There are 4 different types of providers access ramps, that is telecom based, cable TV based, then there is wireless based and computer based online information in local or access road. Next is global information distribution, are infrastructures that is connecting countries and continents. So countries and continents will be connected with global information distribution network. So it's very easy. We'll repeat it again. Consumer access equipment include all the hardware, software and the vendors that is consumer access. Local or access road includes businesses, organizations, that is universities, academics and homes. They have four types, that is telecom based, cable TV based, wireless based and computer based application information. Global information is which is connected to countries and the continents, different continents of the countries, which can be termed in global distribution. The next is information superhighway, that is highway. Any successful e-commerce application will require the highway infrastructure in the same way that regular commerce needs the interstate highway network to carry goods from one point to another. So superhighway, what it will do is it will try to communicate with the e-infrastructure so that it can carry goods or network from one point to another, that is reaching out from one point to another with a transport medium. A myriad of computers, communication networks and communication software forms the nascent information superhighway. So a collection of computers, communication networks, communication software, they form all together one way, that is information superhighway, in bracket I-way. The I-way is not a US phenomenon but a global one, as reflected by its various labels worldwide. So it's not a US phenomenon, it's a global one. It is globally accepted everywhere, so there is nothing variable in it. It is used in the World Wide Web culture as well. For instance, it is also called as National Information Infrastructure in the university states, and it is called Data Dori in Japan and Jering, which is a Malay for net in Malaysia. So it has highway, has different names in the different continents. Then, and it is yet to develop and yet processing for different variations. Next is market forces influencing highway. First one is the cost. Second is subsidies. Third is store resource allocation, local regulations, global access. Fourth one is information privacy issues, social barriers and other forces. So other forces here are users, consumers, end users or businesses. So first one is cost. Now the cost is related to the investment cost in comparatively high in highway. So high, it's more cost consuming. And the next is the question as to who can bear the cost of constructing the highway remains unanswered. Who is initially investing in the highway cost is still a question. Nobody has to answer it. And some people favor the interstate highway model. Interstate means here people can invest depending on the network which they are provided. Subsidies, highway requires huge investment, but the return could not be expected overnight. So it's not one day investment and one day return. It's a long time return process. Store resource allocation. There is always an element of risk in providing highway. So some feel that investment may not give backup reasonable return. So there is also no guarantee that this highway will be fully utilized. So store resource allocation, giving facility overall over the zones is not possible. So people try to invest low with a risk factor. Local regulations are there, they follow the rules and regulations. Government may regulate the provisions relating to access procedure, privacy aspects and fees or cost aspects. So government has the policies and regulations to put over the provisions, that is access as well as privacy aspects. The next is global access. Global access is it can be globally accessed everywhere. Next is the social barriers. Social barriers is many companies are providing the information relating to the consumers to others. So there can be a problem with marital status, hobbies, then occupation, Then there can be consumer computer equipments used by the customers, number of children, income, expenditure. So there are certain variations in which problems can arise. So social barriers are there. Other forces are users, consumers, end users of businesses, ISPs, then internet service providers, then value added information providers. All such people are there for accessing the information. So for this lecture we'll stop here. There's one more topic, that is network access equipment, which we'll be going through in the next lecture, and I will be starting with our next chapter and next unit. So with this chapter we will end with unit 1, that is it. Unit 1 has 3 chapters overall, so we'll end up there and then we'll continue with unit 2. Thank you.